the honorable monks and dignitary personnel from Rakhine State of Myanmar, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for bringing me here as a speaker. So I've already written 3 papers about the Arakan and colonial periods. So this is my topic. It's very much problematic, I think. There will be a lot of challenges on my presentation, I hope. Please. Everybody knows that you are reading news about the boat people fleeing from the Arakan state, especially, let me call Arakan state because I prefer Arakan to Rakhine. But in Burmese, I want to be called Rakhine. From the northwestern part of Rakhine state, Arakan state, that's Butidong and Maundo area, many people are fleeing. There's on the raft and the boats, and some were drawn. I also sad to hear, to read this news. But it's closely related with my presentation, and actually, on the other hand, some illegal immigrants from Bangladesh to another country, because everybody knows that there's population explosion in Bangladesh. So my paper is especially based on the colonial period, Rakhine in the colonial period. So this problem, all you know that started in June 2012. But it has long history. Especially, it was simmering for 7 decades, since 1942. How about the historical background? Let us see. Okay, that's fine. In Southeast Asia, there are 3 Muslim, not enclave, I think I shouldn't use enclave for southern Thailand and southern Mindanao. Because actually the Muslim minorities' problems were different, has different historical background. So Islam spread to Southeast Asia from Bengal to Sumatra, then spread to the whole Southeast Asian archipelago. But this map is wrong. Anachronistically, it was drawn because in those days, in end of 13th century, when Islam spread to Southeast Asia, there was not that Muslim enclave in Arakan. Okay. This is Faiz report. Professor Jack Leiter has already mentioned his name. He was the first Deputy Commissioner of Arakan and also a historian. But it's very difficult to judge his historical works. But it's his report as an administration officer about the indigenous people of the state or Arakan. So you can see here the indigenous people of Arakan, the inhabitants are in the plains, Rakhine Tha. We all call ourselves Rakhine Tha, Arakanese, Kola, Indian. Kum, that's a low-caste Hindu. In the hills, Chonga, everybody knows that, because who were living in the upstream of the river, we call Chonga. Khmer, everybody knows. Khmer is a hill tribe. And Khmer is the same. And Rakhine people Afghanese people call Chin, not Chin, but Chang. This is Chang. This is Chin people. And Dainak is now called by the Arakanese. These people are called Chakma in Bangladesh. And actually these people are Mongoloids and Buddhist people. Buddhist and Mrong. Actually, I think Professor Jack Leiter may know more than I do about the Mrong. It's Tripuri, I think. Tripuri, the people from Tripura state in India. And the other tribes, when the Arakanese held these possessions in Bengal, the subject, this thing was widely and very explained very in detail by both professors, so I don't need to tell about that. And they appear to have sent numbers of inhabitants into Arakan as slaves, whence arose the present Kola population of the country. I will explain this sentence. It's also related with the presentations of the two professors. The pirates brought the Bengali peoples to Mrau, and Mrau became a slave market in Bay of Bengal, and Dutch East India Company bought these slaves and sent to Batavia, right, sir? Okay. But in this case, I was asked by some people that if there was a Muslim community in Mrau before the Burmese conquest in 1785, I don't deny the existence of Muslim community in Arakan, because I also read some Arakanese inscription, and I found that I often found Kala, 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 Kala. I don't know which Kala it means, because we Burmese and Arakanese people call all these people from the Indian subcontinent Kala. This is about Budidong and Amandong. That's two townships formed one subdivision. And in the colonial period, the Bengali people migrated into that area. So I gave it a subtitle, Chittagonian Migration, because when I gave a speech in Yangon, someone criticized me for using this word Chittagonian. This term was not invented by me. It was the term used by the British colonialists to call the immigrants from Chittagong district. So here you also know about, you can read in the Budidong subdivision, two townships, Maundo and Budidong. The Bengalis are Mohammedans from the neighborhood of Chittagong, Ramu, and Cox's Bazar. In the settlement tract, they are found chiefly near the town of Akka and in the north of Mayu River. This is I forgot to get here. It is British Library in London. It's the session number is the so and so. RSO means Report of the Settlement Officer for the year 1885-1886. So this is sound evidence of the Bengali migration into Northwest Arakan. This is report of the Samaj, R.B. Samaj, who was Deputy Minister, Deputy Commissioner of the Akyab District, what is now called Sitwe. Since 1879, immigration has taken place on a much larger scale, and the descendants of the slaves. I have to explain about this descendants of the slave, what I mentioned about the slave, Bengali slaves who settled down in Kaladan and maybe Kaladan. I don't think it's in large number. They were in Kyaltor and Muham, Mrau townships. Maunda township has been overrun by Chittagonian immigrants. Budidong is not far behind, and new arrivals will be found in almost every part of the district. So I'm very sure that all these Bengali who claim themselves Rohingya now, who want to be called Rohingya now, or Bengali, is very sure, well documented in the colonial records. Okay. This is also about the report of the settlement officers of the Akyab district for 1887 and 1888. The British Library, London, and so and so. The land. It's about the Mount Dog tract. That is the east bank of Naf River. The land contained in this influx of Bengalis. It is written by R.B. Samaj. Bengali, he called them Bengalis from Chittagong without any expenditure of time or money by the grantee. One grantee now obtains an income of rupees 7,488 per annum and will not be required to pay any revenue to government until 1895. So if a Bengali migrated into Arakan and reclaimed land, he didn't need to pay tax to the government till 1895. And how about this? 7,488 rupees. That is the average income of a farmer in that area. So they don't need to pay anything. Even they don't need to pay, they did not need to buy tickets for ferry tickets from Chittagong to Akyab, because the British, the companies, Bulin and Steel Brothers, they are exporting rice from Arakan to Europe. You know, after Suez Canal was opened in 1869, Akyab became fourth largest rice exporting port in the world. Okay, another one. is about the okay. The population of the whole tract is 127,831, of which the north side, only in Mondo, contains 47,669, and the Kaledan side 80,162. Then you can compare the population of Mondo Township and the population of the whole district. It's quite much different. Population densities was very, very high in Mondo and Butidam. Especially this is from Mondo, please. This is the assessment of the census report for 1871, 1901, and 1911. So for 40 years. So here you can see the increase of the population. You know, Mohammedan means, you know, you all know that these are both Bengalis are included and other, maybe other Mohammedans are also included. Mohammedan, the increase of Mohammedan people, this is the Bengali people, Burmese, and Arakanese. So you can calculate here that in 40 years, in 4 decades, Bengali population increased 155%, and Arakanese or Rakhine people populations increased only 26%, including those who came back from Bengal. British policy also favored the migration of the Bengali people. I have read in the sources, I didn't bring it here. Even the East India Company was thinking of the incorporation of the Arakan states with Bengal, because there was human resources that was abundant in Chittagong and very scarcely populated in Arakan. That's why these fertile valleys became, Professor Van Golden also explained to you about the rice export of the Arakan. And so, you know, after the Burmese conquest, Arakan became very scarcely populated area. I read a paper of Professor Jack Leiter, and he estimated the population of Arakan in 1825. The population of the Arakan state, what is now Rakhine state, was only 100,000 people. That's the estimation of Professor Jack Leiter. So why the Arakan's population depleted suddenly? All you know that, I think you may all know, you know, most of the Arakanese people were devoted to central Burma after the conquest, Burmese conquest, and then you all know, I read it, you can also read in Hardy's History of Burma, for the camping, Bodopia, for the camping in Thailand, of what was then in Siam, you know, he sent for 60,000 soldiers from Arakan, and also 3,000 workers to repair Meitila Dam. And I think another 3,000 or 2,000 to build the Mengon Pagoda. So Arakan's population was really small. That's why the British wanted to bring their human resources from Chittagong. No, wait. Oh, no. Okay, so this is a British record. Bengalis are the frugal race who can pay without difficulty a tax that would press very heavily on the Arakanese. Bengalis are not addicted like the Arakanese to gambling and opium smoking, and their competition is gradually ousting the Arakanese. I'm sorry. But I want to blame the colonial administration again, because in 1924 they fought the first war with Burmese, and then the Strait Settlement was formed, and there was Chinese migration from the Kwantung area. Some Chinese, they brew alcohol and they sold. They were very, you all know the Opium War. It's not a good word for a historian to mention, but okay, Anglo-Chinese War, two Anglo-Chinese War. It's because of the war was the import of the opium. So these Chinese were brought to, especially to Gyalpu district, and the Arakanese became addicted to opium smoking. Ethnic violence that began in 1942. British administration evacuated into India. Actually, at first they were defeated by the Japanese, although they called retreat to victory. There was an anarchy. After the British evacuation and before the Japanese troops reached that area, in Buthidan and Maundo, most of the villages were burned down and people were killed. Women were raped. Monks were also killed. And Buddha images and Buddhist temples and pagodas were all destroyed. And even in Rathiram Township, on the western bank of the Mayu River, this is the report of the Secretary of Governor, whose office was at that time in Simla in India. I have been told harrowing tales of cruelty and suffering inflicted on the Arakanese villages in the Rathiram area. Most of the villages on the west bank of the Mayu River have been burnt and destroyed by the Chittagonian V forces. British made very bad mistake. They armed the Bengali and formed the volunteer force. V force means volunteer force. That they intended, actually they were formed to give information of the movement of the Japanese forces. But when they were armed, they destroyed all the Arakanese villages, Arakanese houses, Buddhist monasteries, and so and so. Tens of thousands of Arakanese were killed. We don't have statistics. West bank of the Mayu River have been burnt and destroyed by the Chittagonian V forces. The enemy, that's Japanese, the enemy never came to these villages. They had the misfortune of being in the way of our advancing patrols. Hundreds of the villages are said to be hiding in the hills. It will be the Araucans who will be ousted from their ancestral land, and if they cannot be won over in time, then there can be no hope of their salvation. After the war, British government declared that Burma will be granted independence. Then the Muslims from that area, they have formed a religious organization, Jamiatul Ulema-e-Islam. That's the board or group of the Muslim scholars, Islamic studies, scholars for Islamic studies. These people actually involved in the politics, and they sent a mission to Karachi to see Ali Jinnah and the leaders of the Muslim League, and they asked for the incorporation of three townships, Budidam, Maundong, and Rathidaun in East Pakistan. But Ali Jinnah did not favor their request. So that's why these townships were in Myanmar now. So when they could not get they could not fulfill their hope. So they rose in a rebellion. This is written by an Israeli scholar about the Mujahid rebellion. Bands of the armed Muslims began wandering throughout the region, frustrating government activity. Government activities to resettle both the Bengalis and Arakanese people in their villages. But resettlement problem was in failure. British could not do that. There were 206 Arakanese villages in Maundong Township, but only 26 villages could be resettled. So, why? The Mujahid rebellion. Bands of the armed Muslims began wandering throughout the region, frustrating government activity. They forcibly isolated the Arakan Rakhine villages who had resettled on their lands, denying them drinking water and food supplies, harassing them in every way imaginable, so that they were compelled to turn around and return to the south. Muslims, religious leaders, began preaching jihad. Jihad means holy war in Islam against Arakan. Infidel. Infidel is the English equivalent for the Muslim war, kafir. Indeed, initially, guerrilla activities were directed to more ethnic targets against the Buddhist Aryans than against the Burmese government. In 1946, there was a conference in Ali Thanjor village. Actually, this is a large village. All Muslims from Arakan gathered there, and they discussed about the future of the Muslims. And the Mujahid Party leaders were the organizers of that conference. They demanded the area between the west bank of the Caledon River and the east bank of the North River must be recognized as the national home of the Muslims in Burma. The Muslims in Arakan must be accepted as the nationalities of Burma. Here you can notice that they call themselves Muslims of Arakan because they had not invented that word Rohingya in those days. The Mujahid Party must be granted a legal status. Okay. The Urdu language must be acknowledged as the national language of the Muslims in Arakan. Why Urdu? Why not Bengali? Urdu is the official language of Pakistan. Yes. The refugees from Toto and New Home, Mrau Township, must be resettled in their villages at the expense of the state. The Muslims under the detention by the Emergency Security Act must be unconditionally released. But this is about the resettlement, the difficulties of the resettlement program. For one offense, only 277 out of 2,400 indigenous Arakanese who were displaced from Buthidaung and Maundo townships after the British evacuation in 1942 could be resettled on the sites of their original homes. There are also 2,000 Arakanese Buddhist refugees brought for fear of Muslims, threatening and frightening them by firing machine guns near the villages at night. While our hands are full with internally displaced of refugees, we cannot take the responsibility for the repatriation of the Muslims. There was also some Muslim refugees on the other side of the Naf River. Sabinagar camp. Okay, that's the failure of the resettlement plan of the British government after the war. So the Mujahid, the Muslims, Bengali Muslims rose in rebellion in 1946 before Burma gained the independence.